So I'm delighted to say that I'm now going to be doing a fireside chat with Jason Verlen, who's the Senior Vice President of Product Management at CCC. Jason, great, I can see you've joined us there. So Jason, I've given you a title there, but I was also reading your CV earlier. I can see you've got extensive experience in product management, big data analytics, but also served as Vice President of Big Data Analytics for both IBM and SPSS. So welcome today. I'm very keen to have a good session and speak to you. Are you okay today?
Yes, I'm great. And thank you for the introduction, Wyn.
Great. So as I explained, I sort of introduced Jason there. We're going to be doing a fireside chat. So I'm going to be interviewing Jason for the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes. I would encourage those watching this to submit your questions. We're going to keep an eye on them and we'll try and sort of engage with them and hopefully leave a good 5 minutes or so at the end to get through anything specific as well. So Jason, probably a good place to start is, I guess, I know you and a bit about the company, but perhaps you could just give us a bit of an overview about CCC, what the company does, and how you work with underwriters at the moment.
Yeah, my pleasure, Wyn. So CCC is a technology and an AI leader is the way you can think about us. What we do is we connect the multi-trillion-dollar automotive industry through intelligent data, software technology, and intelligence insights. I'll give you some idea of the scope. We handle currently roughly 16 million auto physical damage claims per year. Our solution, our technology tracks that vehicle all the way through to the repair, which includes the ordering of $13 billion worth of parts annually to make sure those vehicles are repaired correctly. We have more than 50 billion miles of historical driving in our telematics exchange. And every single day we deal with 350 carriers, 25,000 repair shops, every major OEM, untold number of parts suppliers, both OEM and aftermarket, also lenders, etc. if the vehicle is in a total loss, the full network. We are basically a company, we are 40 years old. And we have a 40-year history of connecting these partners in innovative ways to track the vehicle life cycle. We maintain industry leadership just by what I would call an excessive amount of investment in technology innovation at all times. To give you an example, in the last 3 years, we have revolutionized the claims process, creating a digital experience through AI, mobile, IoT, and connecting up the network to create a digital experience for customers to process a claim. So for example, Telematics determines automatically the vehicle was in an accident. We engage this consumer through the platform immediately through a mobile experience. They can take photos of the accident scene and the vehicle. These photos get used to create an estimate via AI and human intervention. The consumer can select the shop via the app and via the digital experience. He is interacted with at all times by the carrier in the shop, all the way through to vehicle conclusion. And now what we're doing is we're taking that exact approach and developing a 360-degree view of the underwriting process itself and of risk.
Fantastic. One thing I find interesting, that you're 40 years old and here you are, you're suddenly an InsureTech company, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We're a 40-year-old InsureTech.
So, I mean, we've doing the sessions over the last couple of days in this conference, I've asked a lot of sort of newer InsureTechs this question, but I guess given your scale and scope, it's a kind of apt place to start with you guys. And that's really about how COVID and what's happened in the world in the last 6 months has perhaps accelerated digital adoption generally, what you do and how it's perhaps changed the landscape for auto insurance, for underwriters, and perhaps how you've responded to that. So yeah, how have things changed for you guys in the last 6 months?
Yeah, that's a fascinating question. Look, digital adoption, we were seeing nice increases of digital adoption well before we got hit with COVID. What happened with COVID was we have seen kind of what I would best call just a crazy acceleration in the adoption of our digital technology. So, you know, for example, that solution I just described earlier about a digital claims process that offers the consumer an end-to-end experience, The number of claims we have going through that process has more than doubled since the beginning of the year. And that's because, of course, it offers a safe experience with no physical interaction with everybody, so people don't have to get a potential contagion when they're involved in an accident. But what we're seeing, of course, is this doesn't just pertain to claims. It pertains to underwriting as well. You know, mobility, of course, because of this virus, is way down. People are not commuting to work as much. This is quite clear from our numbers. And what you set rates with is changing. There's COVID, and there's also sort of societal stresses and transformation issues. And there's pressure to move away from kind of historical rating factors, credit scores, demographics, things like this, and adopt a more modern rating. And what does that modern rating look like? Well, how does this person actually drive? What kind of safety vehicle is on the vehicle he is driving, and how does that affect his likelihood for getting in accidents, the severity of those accidents, and the cost of repairing that vehicle? And consumers kind of all over are expecting this shift. It's fascinating. You know, I think there was a recent JD Power survey, which basically said that something like 40% of people are more likely to use UBI now than before the pandemic occurred. And this is not changing. You know, as predicted, here we are getting colder, and COVID is back, and it's back in kind of full force. So, you know, companies are extending their work at home, and mobility is going to stay down. And I guess the best way I can summarize this and the conversations we're having is the shift in mobility not going anywhere. And underwriters, must begin to start pricing for the future of mobility now, because kind of that future, in a sense, is now. It's happening.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the other part of this question, which you've sort of alluded to there, is that, you know, the shift to digital, it was kind of happening anyway. It's been accelerated, but this actually pertains to every aspect of the customer expectation and experience now. So even if life goes back to normal, the customer's expectations on how they want products delivered, what sort of experience they expect from a company, everything needs to be at the touch of a button. I would guess those expectations are here to stay. What might that mean for you as a business?
Yeah, you know, I get that question a lot. You know, the question is something like, once we get the COVID virus under control, are we going to go back to quote unquote normal? And my answer is very emphatic. This transformation is not only here to stay. I expect it to accelerate after the COVID virus is under control. And I'll tell you why. My proof is in two parts. Number one, as you point out, this transformation was happening before COVID. Okay, it's not like COVID hit and we magically decided to digitally transform. It was already happening. Number two, there is so much evidence throughout history, Wyn, that whenever there's one of these societal upheavals, whether it be the Spanish flu or 100 years ago, or whether it be the Great Recession of 2007, people change their use of technology. Okay. Now, what's interesting, of course, is once the original instigating event is over, that transformation and their increased use of that technology does not recede, it increases, it goes faster. So just two quick examples. The Spanish flu got a lot more people using the telephone. Yeah. They could communicate with people without physical interaction. When the Spanish flu ended in 1920, did people stop using the telephone? No, they used it more, okay? Similarly, in 2007, after the Great Recession, people took gig jobs, Uber driving, et cetera, during the Great Recession because there were no other jobs available. But once the economy recovered, did those kinds of jobs recede? No, it increased because people found number one, they liked working like that. But number two, they found an easy way to make some extra money. It worked for them. Okay. We expect exactly the same thing happening. And if you look at what's going on, that people are interacting with these digital experiences every day. They're buying groceries that get delivered to our house. They order them right from the phone. Okay. Banking is now entirely a digital experience, and people make their own experience in banking. They do whatever they want. It's quite amazing. Medicine. My wife is in healthcare. She does home health. She even does phone calls for health on the office or digital engagement on Zoom at the office. These things things are not going away. This is just another avenue of use of these capabilities, these services that will likely keep increasing after COVID. So it's going to continue. Consumers expect it. They deal with it every single thing they do. So does it not make sense they're going to expect it from their carrier? They will. They'll expect the complete experience, all the way from point of quote to point of claim to point of resolution, every single step in between. And that means kind of this modernization is going to increase and become a much more personalized experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder to those watching, please submit your questions. We'll get to them at the end. Keep them coming. Just again, a sort of follow up on the logic we were talking about there, Jason. I mean, technologies have the ability to help underwriters and insurers do things better for some time. The question, I guess, has always been, why now? How do you, as a technology company, I guess, create a sense of urgency in your clients, the insurers, to make them take that leap? We've talked a lot about COVID there, how that's turning the world more digital. That's clearly going to increase the urgency, but are there other factors? Are we starting to see, for instance, a gap appearing where companies using technology are simply more profitable, more efficient, getting new customers, things like that as well?
Yeah, I think that's a very sharp question. Look, my opinion is, given what we've kind of just discussed, what the evidence is telling us, I don't really think underwriters have as much time as they think to shift to this more modern approach, adopting new data and creating a more thorough customer experience. Your customers are already surrounded every day by these digital interactions and experiences that we just talked about. You run the risk of essentially being the odd man out in the future if you're not adopting this technology change. I always use the simplest example. Just think, Wyn, about ordering food these days. You get on an app, you can order the food through an app, you can then switch to the phone and finish the order. Somehow that restaurant down the street, they have completely integrated the network. The paying can be done digitally for the food. The delivery can be done digitally, or you can go pick it up yourself. You create your own experience digitally. Look, if your neighborhood restaurant can do that, how much time do we really think we have before our customers in the underwriting space expect exactly the same? This is kind of happening all over, even in corner cases with local business. So we have seen it in a big way in claims. We are dealing right now with kind of the avalanche. And I think that, you can kind of look at it as, claims was, that wave is occurring, at mass right now, at scale. And that's a sort of preview that we're all having as to what's going to happen in underwriting. So we need to take a modern look at how people drive, what they're driving, what the vehicle is worth, a completely new modern way. And your point is valid. I think if you don't take that next step to modernize your risk analysis, someone else is going to. People are already working on this. They've been through the claims situation and transformation. They know this is coming, and they know their customers are noticing these kinds of transformations because they interact with them every single day.
It's a case of adapt or cease to be relevant, right?
I think we're getting that, where that is exactly what happened in claims. At the beginning, there were a lot of doubts about it. At the time of those doubts, you would look at maps and 2 to 3% of people in every state were handling these transformations digitally. So they get in an accident and they'd use the app. That was 2 to 3%. Well, it's now well over 20%. Okay, so it is happening very, very fast. And that's exactly what's going to happen in underwriting.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a little bit of a follow-up on that as well. You sort of, we talked about the technology a lot. But when you think about how you talk about the urgency in an underwriter and an insurance company to adapt, is that partly a cultural thing? Is it partly a generational thing about the people making those decisions to pick certain technologies and get on with it?
I think there's that element. I think people know that innovation is necessary, whether there's cultural issues or other issues that can sometimes be impediment. They know they have to do it. The issue is how. People get stuck they get sort of analysis paralysis because it is, at the outside, it is completely different. You're using completely different rating factors. You have a completely different way of dealing with your consumer. It can be somewhat daunting. So kind of the way that we're kind of looking at it is, what do we do at CCC to enable customers to be innovative? And it's really about the data, the technology, and the network. So look, can we make it easier to access connected car data and related data? It's really, and connect the whole thing in a 360-degree view. So it shouldn't matter. Is the data in an OEM? Is the data with an insurance company? Is the data from an app? Does not matter. The technology has to provide an easy way to bring in that behavioral data to use it to measure the risk of a customer. Similarly, it must detect accidents. Okay, I mean, our research indicates nearly half of consumers who do not use UBI would consider it if it included the capability of automatic crash detection and automatically engaging in a digital claims process that was convenient for them in end-to-end. It's a value-added service that offers the complete experience. Similarly, so you have the data about how they're driving. Doesn't matter where it came from. You have a service to offer them. Now what are they driving? What is the safety equipment on this car? Well, through this exact same API that we offer the behavioral data, we offer the ADAS data. So, and this matters because the safety equipment, you have to measure the applicability of the safety equipment on risk. So for example, we know that some of this ADAS data, we've measured it, we've calculated it, can reduce high-speed accidents in severity and eliminate a good number of low-speed accidents. So far, so good, right? But if you get in an accident, what's the cost of the repair? This ADAS equipment can greatly increase your cost of repair. So you have to have a modeling solution that understands these to price a vehicle correctly, okay? And then, so all of these available, one API, easily integrated in your process. If you want to build a model, we can give you the ADAS data of the vehicles in your book that have had accidents in our database, and that can help you build a model. That's our claim data connected with our VIN Connect, okay? So you can get the model. And once we have that mindset, remember once again, this notion of the 360-degree view. So does it not make sense? If you have a meeting of the minds with a customer, why not ask them to take a few pictures of the vehicle? We can run our AI. We can show where the pre-existing damage exists. This is our quick view capability, and that can be put in the file. And then later on, better experience for the insurer, better experience for the customer, because nobody's arguing about pre-existing damage. It's all documented. Yeah. Okay, so it's a frictionless process. So you kind of put all this together, and we enable all this and the texting capability, the communication with the customer going back and forth easily, digitally, etc. This is what our way of thinking is. We connect the network. It's from carriers to shops to OEMs to parts suppliers. We've done it at a battle-tested scale for claims. Okay, what we're doing is essentially we've pivoted, we've redeployed to transform underwriting in exactly the same way to get this 360-degree view based on modern factors in a way for the insurers that's easy for them to incorporate to get over that hump in your question, which is kind of that paralysis you get. You know where you have to go. You want to go there, but you can't figure out how to make the next step. We package that up to enable that next step to get over that hump, just like we did with claims.
Yeah, okay. Again, just a reminder to the audience, submit your questions. I will get them in a moment. Just a sort of final thing from me, Jason. But I mean, we've talked about some pretty innovative things on this call already, but I also know that for a technology company to be around for 40 years, you must be constantly looking at what the next thing is going to be. What is the next big thing in your sector? What are you doing right now that you can tell us about that's very cutting edge and innovative?
I can't give away kind of all our secrets, but I can tell you there is literally no end in sight when you talk about the ability to apply mobile IoT network all together to transform these processes. Look, everything about them, what's on the vehicle, how the vehicle's been repaired, what is the damage of the accident, the sensors on the vehicle is another data source. We can even, if you want during the underwriting process, do you want to know the exact value of that vehicle? What exactly is on the car? We know those things. How do we know them? Because we've been processing total losses for decades. Okay, so we don't use average depreciation factors. We know the exact value of the vehicle, based on the condition of the vehicle, how old it is, the exact build sheet, what it came with. We know all those things. So every single one of these things I have described has a natural next step. This claims process that I described before, it's not like we worked on it for 2 or 3 years and said, here we are, have at it. We're on version, whatever of this process. We keep improving it. We keep adding to it. We keep making it more adaptable. I think the way that we like to look at it is, it used to be, we would think about it as providing a top-down experience for a customer digitally. Now what we think about is more enabling the customer to make his own experience. It's kind of like the restaurant I was telling you about. Do you want your food delivered when you order it digitally, or do you want to pick it up? Your choice. Okay. Do you want to pay right there on the app, or do you want to give them your credit card when you get there? Your choice. Okay. People make their own experiences these days. And that's really the way that we look at this process. And I think with underwriting, same exact thing. It's this engagement between the carrier and the consumer, making things ultra easy, ultra fast, completely transparent, highly modernized interaction, modernized use of data, and kind of a use of data that fits well within the context of kind of the societal changes that we see also.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jason. Just one final question. We've been going for over 20 minutes actually, so I think we'll have to wrap up soon. But I just wonder as well, you sort of talked there between the sort of interaction between yourselves and your customers, and I guess it's kind of a constant learning curve. I mean, how do you sort of identify new risk factors to integrate into your technology? Is that a kind of two-way street of learning, or do you sort of see yourselves as the experts, or?
It is a two-way street of learning. We are very big with the concept of analyzing data, and also, quite frankly, a lot of testing, A/B testing of all kinds. So let me give you an example. I mean, there are tons of pieces of equipment on a vehicle. When, if we wanted to, we could say to our customers, you click on our API, you want to understand all the equipment on the vehicle, we'll give you, 500 pieces of equipment. Between you and I, how useful do you think that would be? I mean, it's easy to do. It sounds good on a marketing brochure, but we know from our analysis, it does not help. It's just another impediment to look at all that data. So what we do instead in kind of conversations with our customers is we show them which ones actually matter. We give them a much shorter list of things, which enables them to build a model much faster. Then they can in fact build several. We can check with the results. We can work with them and A/B them. So it is this interaction that is absolutely critical. We have a lot of expertise to provide. We have a lot of data, but our customers have the same thing and they really know their business. So it's when the two get merged that you really get this solution for the next generation, this ability to really begin to price for the future of mobility, which is really what we're going for here.
Okay. And just one final question we've had in, and then I'll wrap things up. Driverless cars, how might that change the landscape for you guys?
Oh dear, that's going to be an interesting one, isn't it? We followed driverless cars now for a while. A couple of very funny things. Number one, from the beginning, it's been plainly obvious. Driverless cars do not mean that there's never going to be another accident on planet Earth. This is just nonsense. We're going to have a future here where there are going to be cars like there are now with people driving, cars where there are now with some automated features and ADAS equipment. So kind of a combination of technology and humans driving the vehicle. And then we probably will see in waves, we are already seeing it for fixed routes, easy to understand, driverless vehicles. All three are going to coexist. All three have different rating factors. All three must be looked at in a very specific way, like I'm talking about. No averaging, no elements that have been used for 40 years. This has to be a kind of very new way of looking at data and analytics and who's driving. And look, driverless cars, one of the funnest things that we've seen is people have finally begun to understand a driverless car can be put in the same difficult position that a car being driven by a human being can be put into, where it's one bad result versus another worse result. We've all been there, right? When the car in front of you just decides to stop for no reason. You know, maybe he's not paying attention. Maybe he sees a kid playing with a ball over, you know, in the yard to the left, and he's concerned. Well, driverless cars have the same problem. These things can happen. So I think the issue is we need to be able to forge a future where all of these modes of driving are going to be on the road at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that involves rating with all of these new elements, the way that we are pushing for with this new 360-degree modernized view of risk. Right.
Okay. Well, on that futuristic note, I'll have to wrap things up. So thank you very much for your time, Jason. I enjoyed that. To take us out of this and steer you where to go next, I'm just going to ask Rachel Gore to join us back on this virtual stage, who will explain what's happening next. Rachel?